As we turn now to Khan Younis, we're joined by Moureen Kaki, head of mission for Glia International, a medical solidarity organization that sent doctors to Gaza. Moureen has been in Gaza since June of last year. She's recently been assisting international doctors with translation for Palestinian prisoners released from Israeli jails. This is one newly released Palestinian, Majid Abid, who was detained nearly 2 years ago.
The situation is extremely hard for young men. No food, no drink, no medical care. They face constant oppression, torment. I wish everyone would pay attention to their situation. May God protect everyone. Thank God. It's an indescribable feeling.
So, Moureen Kaki, if you can talk about the people you have translated for, what is very clear from the images we're seeing of Palestinians who have been released from Israeli prisons, some 1,700 apparently in Gaza, more released in the occupied West Bank, is how thin they are, almost skeletal. They are all wearing those heavy gray sweatshirts. Describe the experiences that you have heard of these people.
Yeah, Amy, it was really tragic to listen to the things that they had to share. Some of it they didn't have to share. Some of it was visually represented on their bodies in the way you were describing. But three folks that we saw and talked to in particular had fresh gunshot wounds from as late as 3 weeks ago that were all in their leg, in their thigh. It was like the same place. They had, every single one that I spoke to had described the same experience of the fact that since the ceasefire was announced, they were only allowed toilet water to drink. They were not given any food. Some were beat by Israeli forces as early as 2 hours before their arrival into Gaza while they were waiting on the bus. Everybody described torture, both like brutal sort of beatings to different parts of their body, but also sort of quote unquote soft forms of torture where they were forced to kneel or sit in an uncomfortable position for several hours at a time. It was really horrifying what they had to share.
And Moureen, if you could give us some details, who are the prisoners that you've been talking to? What kinds of facilities were they held in? And were most of them held under administrative detention? Had they been charged? Had there been a trial, or were they just awaiting trial?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So none of them had been charged. This was all actually, they were all being illegally detained, like under the practice that you named, Israel's administrative detention, which they all described the fact that they were not given any kind of lawyer. They weren't given any kind of communication to the outside world. And in fact, Israeli imprisoners were telling some folks that their whole family had been killed, and in some cases that wasn't true. In some cases, they just didn't get any news at all, and they came back to learn about that their family had indeed been killed by Israel. And so these are people who, I mean, there was a range of folks. There were young men as young as 21 years old, I explicitly remember, and then elder men as old as mid to late 50s. And most of the people that I spoke to were just taken from their homes after their homes had been attacked by Israeli fire at some point, and then they were either injured or disoriented and taken from their homes or the places that they were when they were attacked. And so, yeah, I mean, they're captives. They were taken hostage by the Israeli military.
So again, of these well over 1,000 men, close to 2,000, were not charged, the ones that were released in Gaza?
No, they were being illegally imprisoned as captives by the Israeli military and then the Israeli government.
And where were they held, Moureen?
There were different prisons that they were at in occupied Palestine and in Israel. The conditions under which they were held, so scabies was so rampant in imprisoned Palestinians that the Ministry of Health had actually prepared care packages that included scabies treatment for everyone, because that's how much of a blanket problem it was. So they were held in confined, cramped spaces where other Palestinians, like you guys had mentioned before, from the West Bank, are also held under administrative detention, including children.
One of the men that we just showed, who was weeping on the ground on his knees, had just learned that his wife and children had been killed in an Israeli airstrike. He was holding a little bracelet he had for, I believe, his 2-year-old. Had they had any information as they were being held about what was happening on the ground?
They were not. The gentleman you're talking about, actually, he was one of the first people to come through. I was in the room when he received the news. And they were not. I asked them, actually, one of the things I was doing was offering my cell phone so they could call their families. And often, because there were so many people in the area and because Israel had ruined the infrastructure, it was hard to get cell reception. And so they told me, can I send a message? And if they call you back once I leave, can you just tell them that I'm physically okay? And that I will find them. So, so there was no communication being allowed to happen at all in the entire time that they were held captive. Some of them were held captive for as little as 3 months, and some of them for several years.
Moureen Kaki, we just want to end by asking why you are there. You are head of mission for Glia International. You've been in Gaza for well over a year. You actually come from Texas.
Yeah, I'm Palestinian American, and so this is a personal struggle for me in the sense of, you know, our people are one people, whether it's the West Bank where I'm from, or in Gaza, or in occupied Palestine. And so that it matters to me that I can serve my people in this way, even if it's as small as it is. But the other thing is that I am a tax-paying American citizen, and I feel absolutely disgusted by the fact that our country continues to use taxpayer dollars to fund Israel's occupation and violence against Palestinians. And so for me, it was an easy decision to try to do this kind of work to kind of not to offset the violence that I contributed to financially in the U.S., but to find some way that I could ease my own guilt in that sense. And yeah, it's been the greatest honor of my life to be able to be here in Gaza and do the little that I can to help.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.